Hey guys, Rocket Sage here with more geology education. Are you ready to dive into the scientific wonders of our planet? I am. Let's go. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Good. I can't complain. I'm actually extremely
Good.
excited about this. I hope your day's going well.
And
I know it's extremely late for you, but I really appreciate your time and coming on my stream today, both you and Tom.
yes, I tend to work quite late anyway, and obviously it's a Sunday anyway. So, oh yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
like my the t-shirt?
I'm
Someone
just
will
here for the
say,
rocks. Yes.
yeah.
That is a great t-shirt.
It's not one of the ones that we've made. We've got some good t-shirts,
Mindad has
but it's
shirts?
not one of them. Oh yeah, yeah, we do. However, due to flaws in our business model, we can't actually sell them at the moment because they're all stuck in boxes in a storage unit in Tucson. So when I get back to the US and can get that all sorted, we'll be able to sell them again.
Oh, I will
But yeah,
absolutely buy some
yeah,
shirts.
we had some. We got some good ones, and we should
That's
probably do some more. They've been very popular. I
Oh,
think Tom,
yeah.
you've got one of the t-shirts on at the moment. Yeah,
Do
so
you have one? I'd love to see it.
there's the Sumed Mine t-shirt.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, I got the best one upstairs.
I think that one's sold out though. Oh no, actually, yeah, that's in that color. It's sold out. We got it in a
Hey, I could.
tan, I think.
Do you need me to go to
Yeah.
Tucson and pick your t-shirts up for you? It's not too far of a drive.
Well, I mean, I'm hoping to get out there maybe this year, but probably early next year.
It'd be
And
fantastic to meet up there at some point. Tucson's fantastic.
oh yeah, you got to do Tucson. I mean, Tucson is the most amazing event
Yeah.
in the mineral calendar.
Better than the
Uh,
Denver show? I mean,
oh
I've always
yeah,
heard
yeah,
by far more about the Tucson show than I have the Denver show. But
yeah.
I'm going to try to
Oh,
go to both this year, I think.
Tom's just brought one of the other t-shirts down. So this is one of our other designs. And I'm showing you this even though it's completely sold out. But there we go. We'll have to
Hey,
print them
that's all
again at
right.
some point. So
Oh, is that the crystal systems?
yeah, but it's the caption underneath.
I'm addicted to crystal math. Oh my gosh, please, I need that shirt. Oh no. I need that shirt so bad.
Yeah, we sold out of that one, so we'll have to print that one again. But
Oh, yeah, you do.
the rule we're having is that we're never going to reprint them in exactly the same color. So
That's fantastic.
all of our print runs are one-offs. So we'll do that. What we'll probably do is we'll probably take votes on what color people want for the shirt on that one.
All
And
right, chat. So remember, because they're all saying they want these shirts, so we're gonna have to vote on these shirts.
we will have them done by January next year for Tucson show because that's where we sell most of these things
That's
anyway.
fantastic.
Um, but yeah, we were going to do that one again. We need we need to come up with a good way to decide what color.
Yeah, voting would be good. I suppose you could do that on Twitter. I don't know how you would want to do that. Maybe even a Google survey or something. But I'm sure you guys have many ideas already on that.
I don't know. To be honest, I haven't thought about it until now, but yes,
Yeah.
we can figure it out.
Oh
We'll figure
yeah.
out a way of doing it. Mm.
I'm already so excited about that shirt. I'm also excited to
Yeah,
just meet up with you in Tucson when that eventually happens again. Um,
yeah. I mean, Tucson. The best thing about Tucson is the getting to meet people there. And
yeah.
it's not just the mineral shows and going around and seeing all the exhibits and obviously buying things, but it's meeting everyone else. Almost every night there's some kind of party or event on. So
That's
we
about
will
right.
have we're, we're going to have at least two Mindat events during the Tucson show. Actually, three, I think about it now, because we've got we're having an auction somewhere near the beginning of the show. That's
Okay.
not been decided yet exactly how and when. We're having our regular party, which is basically just everyone turns up and has fun. That will be one evening. And then on the Saturday, which is the second to last day of all of the shows, the TGMS show has a an event there, and we run the silent auction.
Oh, that's
We
cool.
co-run there, so we have an event there as well in the main show. So yeah, we're going to be busy at Tucson. We're going to be very busy.
If of course we could talk about this off stream, but if you guys need any help at all, I'd be more than happy to help, especially if
we
I'm
do.
there, because
We do.
I am very excited to, one, meet all of you, two, just to go because it's the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show. I'm excited about it. They've got some good specimens of wolfenite that I want my hands on.
Mm. We found some wolfenite yesterday in the mine.
Are you
Don't
serious?
get,
Yeah.
don't get too excited.
Yeah. What's the biggest one we found yet, Tom?
I think it's sub-millimeter.
Less than a millimeter.
Oh, it's tiny.
Tiny, tiny, tiny. But honestly, for British wolfenite, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Wolfenite, yeah, wolfenite's typically found in sort of desert climates. And Wales, where we were, is not known for its arid areas.
No.
Um,
No.
to getting any kind of wolfenite is pretty fantastic. But I mean, I can't show you now because we don't have anything that we can connect it up to show you. But we just looked at it under a scope, and one of the crystals is beautiful. So, and it's tiny, tiny,
Ooh.
bipyramidal orange crystal on green pyromorphite. Lovely.
Do you take mineral pictures on under the microscope?
No.
I have done. I don't have equipment to do it here, and my equipment for doing it is not really working very well at the moment. So I usually leave that to others because I don't really have the time. But
There were some
it's one
microscope
thing I want.
cameras I was looking into for that, but man, they get pricey very, very, very quickly for what?
From what I hear from those who actually, hang on, there you are, Tom. You can't hide. From what I hear from those who do it more seriously, they generally leave out the microscope completely, and they use a DSLR or a mirrorless camera with a combination of lenses, and use stacking to generate the pictures.
Oh,
So
I've seen those tiny microscope lenses attached to
that's it.
DSLRs before.
You,
Yeah.
Yeah, you have something like a 200mm lens on the camera. Then you have an adapter on the end, which connects a microscope objective lens. And that combination, although you have paper thin depth of field, gets really good, really sharp results. And so you just take 200 images or whatever, different stacking points, stack them together and produce astonishing images. I mean, the amount of effort that goes into creating these pictures is astonishing. And then you see how many of them there are on Mindat. It's mind-boggling how much work has gone into producing all these images.
I want to get into that. I was looking for the longest time before I got into the macro photography. I was actually looking into getting a microscope camera, and I'm so glad I didn't. I'm so glad I went this route.
Yeah, I mean, microscope has its uses. I mean, for example, for what you're doing, when you're doing live streaming and you want to show things live, the microscope camera is a great tool because you can literally link it up to the computer, use it as a webcam, and show people what you're doing. Now, I mean, you can still do that with a DSLR or whatever, just using the USB connection. But a microscope camera is a bit of an easier way to do it because you can at least still have one eye or both eyes, depending on your microscope, focusing in on what you want to look at. So yeah, it's still good for that. So it's not completely useless, but it's not the best tool for, you know, your professional top end micro mineral.
Well, in the microscope, so I've got this little guy, right, and it's no longer working, but it was maybe $50. And what I started looking into was more like $1,400. I'm like, maybe macro lenses should be the way to go instead of that. So I'm glad I made that choice because that would be fun in the future if I have some expendable cash. But right now, the upgrades I want to do are all macro photography related. But gosh, it's honestly just fun.
Yeah. There are lots of tutorials on Mindat and other places.
I've seen a lot of good threads on Mindat.
So yeah, it's a great place if you have a problem and you for example, you say like, this is the best I've got. How can I do better with the equipment I've got? Then it's a great place to get advice from people who actually know what they're doing.
There's some really good people there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even close to the level of most of these high-end photographers and what they're capable of. But
someday we will get there.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. Well, now we've got these wolfenites we need to take photos of, so we've got to spend some time to figure out how to do that.
It's gonna be so cool to see those when you're done. Do you have the whole setup to take them with the little apertures and everything that you need? Little microscope
I've got
apertures?
the equipment. None of it's all set up at the moment, so I need to um, get all the right equipment all together.
Gotcha.
And I've got like a Stack Shot Pro, which is the equipment for doing the automatic stacking. I've got
What's it called?
it's called a Stack Shot Pro. It's basically a device which you connect your camera to a mount with, and it moves the entire camera by micro positions. So it moves it a fraction of a millimeter forwards and or backwards, then takes a photo, then keeps moving it, so you can get.
Okay. So I've got this like wheel here. You see this little wheel that I've been using for that to manually adjust it just tiny bit by tiny bit by tiny bit. So it connects to the lens here. I didn't know you could get an automatic one.
Yeah, because yes, that's what you can do that with the manual thing, but the automatic device has much greater precision.
Oh
And
yeah.
obviously it generates precise positions, so you can precisely slice your image up however many.
Oh my goodness, it's almost $600.
Oh yeah, they're not cheap.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I want this so
yeah,
much.
yeah. And you've got to check that your camera is supported by it as well.
That's fair, yeah.
And, or with the software, because often you use third-party software to do the stacking, and the third-party software will support the StackShot Pro. So it controls the StackShot Pro and it controls your camera, and it does it all together, and then it generates a stacked image at the end.
Does it work in Photoshop?
No, you don't use Photoshop for this. It's all done within the
Okay.
proprietary software, because
But it's free. You can get it for free, or
yeah, I mean, yes, you can. I mean, the software's you can get free software to do the stacking, and you can do stacking in Photoshop. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
do
that's how
individual
I've been doing
frames.
it.
But the algorithms in Photoshop, at least when I last used them, were not of the same standard as the ones that the third-party software use,
Huh.
because they have very specific algorithm, and it's also you need a lot of knowledge in using it, because there's like 2 or 3 different stacking algorithms that you use.
Okay.
And I noticed that for things, for example, with fibrous minerals, you need to use one of the algorithms, and for blocky minerals or things with reflections on you need to use a different type. So you need to understand the limitations of each algorithm as well in order to do it, which is
Makes
basically
sense.
it's just trial and error.
Yeah.
Try it on each algorithm and see which one looks best.
God,
But
that is.
there's so much to learn within that as well. And again, it's great to be able to rely on the experience of other people who
Oh
have
yeah.
done this before. Yeah.
I think people can learn probably a lot faster in today's day and age because of the ability to share information so quickly. And I'm grateful for
Yeah.
that.
Although
I
I do this, the modern idea of, instead of having a web page that shows you in 5 seconds how to do something, you've got to watch a 20-minute YouTube video for someone to show you how to do it.
yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
got to skip through the stuff that doesn't matter and get to the
no,
meat. That's usually what I do.
but to be fair, something like this is something that a YouTube tutorial would work really well for,
Yes.
to be able to show you how to stack.
Absolutely.
I haven't checked what's there, but I'm sure there must be. And remember that the stacking techniques that are being used for minerals are exactly the same as used by nature photographers when they're doing stacking shots of
Yes.
insects and other things.
Yep.
So there's a whole world of people who do microphotography, and there's a great amount that can be learnt from all sides of it. So
Do you do
have a look.
landscape photography as well?
I do, yeah. I haven't done much recently, but I have tried.
That's where I know nothing about. Nothing. That's out of my depth. I only know macro.
Landscape photography is, I guess it's about composition. It's about trying to find something that will look interesting when you have taken a photo.
Mm-hmm.
And problem is, a lot of the time It's you take a photo and you think it's a good idea until you see it in the uh, after you've taken the photo, you put it on the computer, you go, what did I do that for?
Yeah, that's how I
Um,
feel sometimes. Like, what was I thinking?
yeah, but I mean, my trick for landscape photography, and it's just a cheat really, is to use wide angle lenses.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
the
smart.
the wider angle the better, because you get the problem is everybody now notices and understands the standard photos you get from a cell phone.
Hmm.
So if you have a photo that's come off of a phone, they all tend to look the same. If you've got an ultra wide angle lens on a camera, you get a different style of image, a different
Yeah,
look. Um,
that's fair.
and of course, now modern phones, some of the latest phones have got these ultra wide lenses built in as well, and that's good because it's going to bring that style of photography to a much wider group of people.
It's crazy how
Mm.
available photography is now becoming to anyone with a decent phone.
Yeah, I mean,
Really. Oops.
I've hardly used my camera at all over the last year. I tend to do everything now on my phone, and
Oh,
I've got
that's
a lot
fair.
of expensive camera gear.
I was
So,
gonna say when you
um,
said the other night with the banded iron formation that you sent. Oh no, maybe that was Captain Paul. You're like, oh, it was just a phone pic, and I'm like, it looks great. That phone picture looks
yeah.
fantastic.
Well, I mean, this phone here has got a 40 megapixel camera in it.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's crazy. I
It
mean,
is.
most
It is.
most DSLRs don't do 40 megapixels.
I actually didn't know that.
Mm.
That's crazy. So I have a series of questions for you that I'm excited to
Okay.
ask. And my first is, what got you into geology? When did you get into geology?
Well, I think I was around 6 years old at the time, and I was on holiday in Cornwall, southwest of England, and I was on the beach with my dad, picking up stones to skim across the water, and I picked up one, and I said, it had a crystal in it. I said, "What's this?" My dad said, "It's a quartz crystal," and I went, "Wow!" And then I was hooked. Um,
Oh,
now, Cornwall is a part of the UK which has an incredible mineral history. It was mined for hundreds of years, and it's got a phenomenal amount of metal mines with unusual minerals in as well. So there's a lot of museums and rock shops and all sorts of things in Cornwall still. So I was able at that time to sort of follow in from that, and I went to a shop in Tintagel and bought an amethyst cluster,
ooh.
which apparently I'd spent all of the money which I had was allocated for that holiday. I was given for this. I'd spent on this one amethyst piece,
Oh,
but apparently I
wow.
was so happy all the time. I didn't have any money for toys or ice creams or anything else. I just spent it all on this.
And
Where's the
honestly, I
Brazilian one?
understand that feeling.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I've still got that as well. Yeah,
so
still
I
got
have
it.
a piece of siderite on quartz from Cornwall. This was actually sent to me by a regular about a year ago. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's very, very, very small crystalline texture, but we do think that it is siderite. I would have to zap it in the SEM to get a chemical analysis, which I can do, but I don't want to cut it up. I like it. And then you can of course see the quartz crystals down here. Now
Oh
I
yeah.
was I haven't done enough with it. I was thinking maybe that there maybe was just a discoloration here and that maybe it was quartz with maybe some
Mhm.
inclusions or something. Just very, very tiny crust of crystals, but I think it might actually be. There's definitely some iron rich material in here. It's got a lot of that orange oxidized coloring,
Yeah.
and it's a bit
I
dense
think
for sure.
it could be that. Yeah, it certainly could be that for looking at that. I mean, it's not it's not an unusual mineral to find in Cornwall, and
No.
there are several places where it can be found in relatively abundantly, and that looks you know fairly typical for Cornish matrix for the sort of things that we would dig out of the mine dumps there. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that I'd say that was quite likely to be said right.
Yeah. So I'll do some. I might do a
Mhm.
little analysis on this when the SEM opens up because pandemic has
Mhm.
definitely changed
Yeah.
all of the department. But I used
Mhm.
to run the lab, and I wanna zap some of these samples that I've collected, get a precise analysis. So,
Yeah, well, at least that's something that you should be able to fairly conclusively test
oh yeah,
with SEM, yeah.
I found siderite before, and I've zapped it in the SEM. It was in a lot of my master's samples. So I don't know what it is about the carbonates that I just love, but I do. I do. So when did you start getting into mineral collecting? So and I know where did you do your geology degree at?
Well, those are two different questions.
It is. So
Well, I mean, I started for mineral collecting literally immediately after I got that passion. I mean, we were fortunate. We were able to go to beaches and go on different trips in Cornwall, and then in subsequent holidays, I was able to go to other places in the UK to do collecting. Um, but yeah, I mean, whenever I could, and I was also fortunate that being in London, we had two very good museums, the Natural History Museum and the Geological Museum,
oh wow.
and they had gift shops. And back in those days, the gift shops actually had real minerals for sale as well.
Yeah, not
And I
these
remember
dyed
that
things.
none of all these, polished lumps of so-called hematite, which aren't even hematite either. It's just magnetic ceramic. It's not even hematite at all. Anyway, but that's a different discussion. So,
Gosh.
so yeah, I mean, I started pretty much straight away. And I always, then after that, I always kept the passion for minerals, and I knew from an early age that I wanted to do something with minerals in my life, and
That's
to go
awesome.
to university to study geology.
So the
Um,
mineral collecting came first and then the geology degree.
Mineral collecting came first, and the geology degree never happened
Really?
because I did 1 year at university in London, Royal School of Mines in London, part of Imperial College. I did 1 year, and I actually hated it.
That's fair.
And and it surprised me. I partly it was because for whatever reason I didn't get on with anyone else in the class in the
Mm-hmm.
group. I had a conflict which I won't go into because it's a bit tedious with one of the staff there, which frustrated me. And but the main thing was at the time there was a real problem in the industry that geologists were not getting hired. There were, for the first time ever,
Mm.
uh, they were unable to find placements for the geology undergraduates to do a summer placement. So
Okay.
uh, we were all kind of despondent about it, thinking, why are we doing all this when there are no jobs at the end of this? Um, and parallel to this, I obviously my other passion since I was young was computing, and I had a summer job before university doing computer support work for BP actually. Um, and after the first year in university, I went back for another summer job there, and I ended up just staying there. I was enjoying that work, and I figured, well, I'm enjoying this. I'm actually earning now as much as I would expect to earn as a graduate geologist.
There
So
you
why don't
go.
I stick with computing? Why don't I stick with computing as my day job and do geology, keep geology as a hobby? And that almost worked for a few years anyway, until the two collided. But yeah, that's it. So I basically gave up on my geology education in order to um, take up a career in computing.
I think that's fantastic. You did really,
Well, I
really
mean,
well.
it all worked out in the end, but I do somewhat still regret that I don't have any, formal academic qualifications, really, in either computing or geology. But um, maybe one day I'll get time to do something.
I definitely do
Not,
have opinions on that, and I did experience a little bit of I had actually pretty serious health issues during my PhD, so I unfortunately did have to walk away from that, and to this day it does break my heart because one, I loved my project, I loved my advisor, and I loved the work I got to do, and I was doing great up until I got sick, and my master's was beautiful, well
Mm.
done. I loved it. I loved my colleagues, so I was really grateful for that experience. But um, yeah, the PhD was definitely a much different experience, and I understand sometimes you just have to do what's best for you. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Some of the smartest people that I know have 0 degrees and are some of the most successful people that I've met. They just are driven and keep learning and keep going. And I think really that's truly what it comes down to. And I think it's important. So I'm really, really grateful
Yeah, and
for all the work that you've put in.
I think for most people, the path through university is going to be a lot more successful and enjoyable than it was for me.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and health issues don't help, and whatever, of course,
Mm.
happened with you, and you don't have to get into any of that. Of course, it is unfortunate, and I'm sorry that any of that even happened. But I'm so grateful for Mindat. Very, very grateful for your work that you've put in, and I genuinely hope that you're happy in what you're doing. Oh, I keep pushing this over
Yeah,
there, and I
yeah.
keep to not. I need to
No,
do that.
I think I'm very lucky to be able to spend the time to do what I enjoy
I
and to
feel the
be able
same.
to. Yeah, yeah, I mean, the disadvantage on it is it's difficult to actually stop work, and that the normal 9 to 5 job is not something that I've had for many years now, and I'll be. It's just I say. I mean, right now it's late, but normally late I will be doing Mindat things
Hmm.
anyway. So,
Hmm.
um, I it's rare for me to take time out to do things which are not Mindat.
Yeah.
Yesterday we were out mineral collecting, which is great fun, but that's kind of almost Mindat work as well.
Yes.
But
Yes.
almost.
I
But it
understand. Even when I'm doing field work myself, am I recording this for YouTube or Twitch? Am I doing this for work? Or it's hard
mm,
to separate it into just pure leisure activities.
normal people start thinking about what they're going to do when they retire, or or thinking about what saving for retirements and whatever. But I've no intention of retiring. I'm going to keep doing this as long as I possibly can.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Um,
Yeah, I'm not. I yeah, because it's not for maybe it's not work in the traditional sense. We don't hate it. We love doing what we
mm,
do. So why would we want to retire doing it? That's kind of
mm.
how I feel. I don't have
Well,
any intentions
yeah.
until I can't walk anymore or something.
Well, I mean, obviously there are days where I have tasks I need to deal with which are less exciting than others,
The busy
and
work, yeah.
yeah, but generally, I mean, I'm very happy with it. And the thing is that there are so many things that we are still planning to do, so many ideas for the future, so many projects that um, we have underway that uh, I mean, I can't see all of these things being completed in my lifetime, but I'd like to see as many of them possible done. I mean, I
Me
see
too.
Mindat right now as the beginning stage of something that's going to evolve a lot more than it has now. And right now we are um, clearly we are known for the mineral information, our mineral localities, mineral photos, but um, there's always been a wider interest in what we do from the wider earth science community.
Hmm.
And we've experimented with what about fossils? What about
Mm,
adding information on that? What about adding information on the ages of deposits, on petrology, on meteorites? There's all sorts of areas which are legitimate ways to expand
hmm.
because they're all directly related to the database we've got. But there are things which, if you are a mineral collector, you might think, well, this is not that interesting to me. But having said that, how many people who collect minerals are also interested in fossils? There's quite a few.
Yeah, a
Um,
lot.
so, um, and the not everybody's interested in knowing the age of the deposits where minerals came from, but um, I think a lot of people are. A lot of people want to learn more, not just, this is a nice shiny crystal and it came from this mine, but I really don't care any more about it. Most people, most serious collectors want to learn more. They want to learn more
Hmm.
about, this form. What
Why
age
is
is
it
it? What
this
were the conditions?
color?
why is it there? Yeah, what chromophores are causing that? Why is it forming this particular crystal morphology?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this particular association? Um, and these are all questions which we have partial answers to some of these questions now. But these are all things that as we expand, we'll be able to have more and more information and more systems that allow people to learn more about it. And obviously, these things rely on not just me programming things, but also people entering in information.
Yes.
One of the big things which I see coming up in the future is being able to try and use more tools based on artificial intelligence and or machine learning, so that there is a vast library of literature already available that we could do some automated tools to go through and find information from. There's actually a service already called Geo Deep Dive that is a basically a prototype system for doing just this. It's not
Oh,
one of
wow.
ours. It's something. There's something that's being built in the US, but it's something that's available for us to use. And it's a great way of experimenting in this to be able to say, okay, well, what information can we find that we don't have already? How can we start filling in the gaps?
Yes.
And then we've been involved in some fairly exciting scientific research over the last 10 years, looking at the data that we've taken and trying to learn more from it and understand the relationships between this data using sort of fairly sophisticated computer science and statistical analysis. And one of the things that we've built based on this is the tools for predictive mineralogy, which means looking at the minerals in a locality, for example, and trying to guess what other minerals could be found here based on the minerals there. Now, for example, if you've got a mineral deposit and there is pyrite and galena and calcite, then you might think, well, maybe there's going to be cerussite there,
Yes.
or maybe there's going to be anglesite there. And those are the things which could be, an expert and someone who knows minerals would know to look for them because you've got the experience. But the idea of a computer being able to just look at the data and say, I think we should be able to find cerussite and we should be able to find anglesite there.
Yes.
And
That is
we did this.
excellent.
We ran this system as a test. There was a US locality that were in New Mexico, and we ran the list through, and the top thing that came up said, we think we should be able to find wolfenite here based on the other minerals that were found. And one of the other MINDAP managers, Erin, went off on a field trip there and indeed found wolfenite. So she was
Wow.
able to verify that
It worked.
Yeah. Now, actually, when we look, yeah. I mean, it's half success because I mean, when we went back and looked at the literature, wolfenite had been recorded there before. We just hadn't got it in the system, but it proved our system works because we didn't have wolfenite listed until we and it was only after Erin found the crystals there that we were able to verify it and put it in the list. But yeah, it does work, and it's quite exciting. And the other thing which is interesting is being able to find similar localities based on the mineral list, which from a programming point of view is actually a harder thing than you might think. So where you've got a locality which has got complex minerals with it, and think, for example, somewhere like the Sumeb mine or the Orela mine in Mexico or something like that, where you've got a large number of mineral species. A simple question is, what are the other localities worldwide which are similar to this? Now, that could be a very good question for a collector because you might have something labeled, for example, as Sumeb mine, and you might be suspicious about it and go, well, I'd like to see what other mines produce similar material.
Yes.
And one of the things, we put this into the system, and the Orela mine, for example, it came up and said that the mines in Laurium in Greece are a similar match. Now, anyone who knows the material from the two mines knows that there's actually very similar appearance between them. They've both got adamite there, which is on a very sort of crumbly limonite matrix that can be very easy to mistake. So again, I mean, this shows that this works. And obviously these are experiments at the moment. These are things that we will want to build on over the years and make more intelligent and grow. But the idea to try and utilize some of the latest technologies in computer science and throw them at these problems and see what we can achieve.
I think
That's what excites me for the
phenomenal.
future.
That is exceptionally cool. I would never have thought to do anything like that, but I'm also not a programmer. What's your favorite programming language? Do you mind if I ask? I know it's kind of random.
Well, that's an interesting question because I mean I've learned many languages. I started off learning BASIC and Prolog back in the 80s and did machine language programming for a while. And but now Mindat's built with PHP, which is kind of ubiquitous for web programming and does the job. It's not necessarily the language which I would use now if I was starting again. I would probably use Python for it's more, Python is a more elegant language, and I think I would prefer to use Python if I could. But everything's built in PHP, and there's nothing wrong with PHP. There's a lot of snobbery of people who say that PHP is not a good language. I disagree. I think it's an excellent language, and it does the job very well.
Mindat works beautifully, so I would say PHP is great.
Yeah. There's pretty much nothing that it can't do, or can't be done with it. There's one or two things that we've done using Python, and they are simply because it was easier using third-party libraries. Things like slicing the images up for our big zoomable images. That's done in Python, but everything else is in PHP, and it probably will stay that way.
GemDat as well is PHP?
Yeah. I mean, GemDat is a fork of the Mindat code done about 10 years ago, which was partly also an experiment for some changes in the way we store data, and which were successful, but we haven't actually put those back into Mindat yet because there's been so many other things to do.
Okay, so Mindat did come first, though.
Mindat was launched in October 2000.
Wow.
Yeah, so we are 21 years old this year.
I can't believe you guys have been around that long. I had no idea.
I know. I can't believe it. But Mindat itself, I mean, Mindat's great because Mindat has two birthdays, like the Queen of England. Because we have Mindat.org website was launched on October the 10th, 2000. But Mindat as a project was a database which I started writing for my own use on Christmas Day 1993. So the actual Mindat project dates back to 1993. That was when the name Mindat was first coined.
Holy, that is amazing.
But the problem was that I built Mindat as my private database, and it was actually a text-only application as well that worked on MS-DOS. But the only person who could enter, the only person who could enter the data was me.
How much
so
work?
I had to do all the typing. To be fair, the only person using it at the time was me, so it didn't really matter. But I then did a Windows version when Windows 95 was launched later, and I did share that with a few people, that version, but again, I was the only one who could enter the data. So the whole point was, how do I find a way that I can get other people to enter data? Because I'm lazy and I don't want to type it all in myself. The main developments of me have always been driven by my laziness. That's the fundamental factor that's driven the development of Mindat over the years.
Or smart. We could just call it smart.
Yeah, well, I'm lazy pretty much.
Delegation.
So being able to get other people to do my work for me by getting them to type in information was.
Hey, just sounds like any advisor I've ever worked under.
So that was why Mindat.org was launched, in order to get other people to start entering data, because I didn't want to do it myself.
Yes.
And that worked. um, and that was successful. Um, and then, of course, actually running the site proved to be quite complex and quite a tedious job. So
Mm-hmm.
I decided I would get other people to help me who would become the management team. And again, getting other people to do my work for me, brilliant. And it worked really well because, as you know, I didn't finish university. I am a I was, and certainly then, an amateur collector only. So I was suddenly running a website that all these professionals were wanting to use. And, like I'm thinking, well, I can't even really properly remember the difference between monoclinic and orthorhombic. So I'm kind of getting a bit bit worried here. So and also at that point, I had people who were proper mineralogists saying,
Mm-hmm.
"I like your website, but you're doing everything wrong." And I decided that maybe the best thing was just to email them back and say, well, okay, yes, I know I am. Will you help me make it right? And
Oh.
they did. And this was the thing, those people who complained at the beginning, uh, turned out to be my greatest supporters over the years because, they had a passion and they saw what I was doing and I was doing it wrong. And I went to them. I said, "Yeah, come and help me." So that was how this management group started. And so finally, I was able to rely on other people who actually knew what they were doing with crystallography and crystal chemistry, which I wasn't. So I wasn't so comfortable with. Um, and I was able to carry on with the programming. Um, and that's how that started. So yeah, I mean and obviously I've learned a little bit since then, but I still don't try and test me on crystallography because I'll get it all wrong.
Hey, that's okay. You are an amazing scientist and clearly a self-made one, and I have a lot of respect for everything you've done. This every time I talk to you, the more I learn, the more I'm just impressed and quite frankly blown away
Thank
by
you.
everything that you've worked on and achieved. And it definitely inspires me. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that there are people like you in the world. Oh, I'm so
Well,
grateful for.
it wasn't just me. There are a lot of
Oh,
people involved
I
in
love
that.
that
So,
the
uh,
community came together and that the people that were complaining initially were the ones who helped lift the whole project up with
yeah,
you. And that's really beautiful because instead of butting heads and getting angry with one another, no, I'm right, no, you're right, and how people can easily get very overly defensive, none of that happened. And that is just phenomenal. And I'm grateful for every individual that helped you. That is
the
amazing.
only thing that's sad to me is that several of the people who are involved at that time in building Mindat up at the beginning are no longer with us.
That
And
is
it's
sad.
20, and there are some people who, in fact, I just found this morning a letter in my files here. I'm going through to scan from one of the guys, Alan Plant, who was one of the key people at the beginning who helped us, and he died more than 10 years ago, so he never really got to see what Mindat became, well, how Mindat is now. But he was instrumental in helping me to build it at the beginning, helping me to get everything right. So, there were several people who were involved in that. And obviously, um, those on Mindat know the name Rock Courier, who was deeply involved in the supporting Mindat for many, many years. He sadly died in 2015. At least he could get to see what Mindat had become. Um, but um, he actually left Mindat a very significant amount of money in his estate, which has allowed us to grow and continue in the way that we wanted to.
Holy,
I mean,
that's
yeah, I mean,
incredible.
it's the it's not enough that we can stop asking for donations.
No,
I mean,
no, no.
I mean, the idea is to be able to have, we've got a safety net now. So
Mhm.
the chances of us, having to pull the plug because we can't afford the server bills next month, that's not going to happen because we've got enough to cover that.
And
But
I would like to just bring this up really quickly. The donate page. Here's the donate page, and there's a link in chat, guys. If you want to help them, there's a series. You can do another amount. You don't have to do the amounts that are listed. You can use PayPal, Visa, all sorts of things. And this is an amazing community. And like you've heard, this is now what 21 years old of a great group
mhm.
of programmers, scientists, geologists alike who have now put this together. So please, if you do want to donate to something, this is definitely a great organization. Those who are offering free information without a paywall are those that I highly recommend to support, and this is one of the best. So there's that link in chat.
And the other thing, yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, the other thing is we don't have any uh, non on topic adverts on the site. There's no Google ads or anything like that. It's the only adverts are from mineral dealers, and they're in a sort of fairly well contained box. We have a
Yes.
couple of banners on the top of the page at the moment, but those again are mineral related events.
Mm-hmm.
We only have highly related adverts and nothing which is targeted at specific users or anything
Mm-hmm.
annoying like that. And if you look at the mineral and locality pages, other than the banners at the top, there's no other adverts, banner adverts at least. Everything is designed to keep the information as clear and as easy to use as possible.
That's
Um,
yeah.
I have people all the time emailing me from companies who are advertising broker companies saying, hey, we've seen Mindat. We know you could make, last one they said they calculated we would be able to make $20,000 a month on adverts based on our search position and our page views. But you know what that would be? That would be with the pages crammed full of clickbait adverts and the like.
Wow, you guys
And
are
so no,
really good. You
I'm
avoid all the junk adverts nobody wants to see.
not. Why would we ruin Mindat by doing that? But yeah, so but that the point is that's what we're turning down. We're turning down $20,000 a month to potentially an advert revenue
Yeah.
in order to provide these pages in a better way. So um, we do appreciate
Wow.
all the what we can have.
I have so
One of the
much
things
respect.
I think the more fun way to donate. I mean, you've showed us a donation page, but the way that I think is a better way to donate is the page sponsorship.
Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to ask about. How
Yeah.
let's show people how to do that.
Okay.
So if we go to Mindat's main page, let's go to Mindat's main page. I'm gonna go to this scene here so people can just see this really quick. How do we go to? Do I go to support us here?
Yeah. I mean, there's two ways of doing it. You can go to first way is you can just find a mineral or a locality that you care about, and you can see if it's already been sponsored or not. Now, obviously, with minerals, a lot of the common minerals have been sponsored. But if you go to the I mean, type in a locality name with a locality, for example.
Oh gosh. Let's go
Uh,
Soda Lake.
Chris Whitney Smith has sponsored that already.
Yeah, I
So
saw that. Yeah.
um,
So let's go to Soda
that,
Lake.
that shows you, yeah, that's how the sponsorships look anyway. So you have your name there, and it can link to your page on Mindat or. But some of the more advanced features in it, like for example, what localities are near me right at this moment,
Ooh.
will not be free. Yes, so you'll be able to use your phone. I mean, we were driving yesterday and we're saying there's a quarry. We're just driving past this quarry. What quarry is it? And it would be great to be able to have the Mindat app and be able to
Yes.
say what localities are near me at the moment, and it'll have the little arrow pointing. That's the name of this quarry, like 250 meters that way. That will be a feature that will be a premium feature, and the premium features will be available only to members who have at least one sponsorship.
Oh
So
wow.
essentially, you don't need to pay extra for the app, but if you are already sponsoring a page, you get access to these other features essentially for free as a thank you.
I'm going to sponsor this page
Thank you.
because I actually do have a tiny piece of painite. And I didn't realize that that one wasn't sponsored. So I will sponsor that one.
I'm surprised that it wasn't sponsored.
I know. I was surprised too. I was like, I know it's a fairly rare mineral, but because of that, it's kind of well known.
We did a Mindat conference, a Mindat trip to Myanmar in 2016, and we went to Mogok and we went to the Painite area. We weren't able to get to the Painite mines because there was a problem with the roads at the time. But the locals, the miners, all came to see us in
Oh,
a nearby
wow.
village.
Aren't there two mines now in Myanmar?
Yeah. There were two. There were two Painite mines, but there's one where the darker crystals come from, very dark red. That was the one which we were hoping originally to go to, but we couldn't. I mean, obviously, when you do go to somewhere like Myanmar, you have to no, be prepared to change your plans almost on an hourly basis. But that was the most incredible time, incredible trip, and we were very lucky because we were the largest group that had ever been of foreigners that had ever been allowed to go there.
Really?
Yeah, and
I would
it
love
literally
to
opened. It had opened up, just before we came in, and then after we went, there were some other issues, and they closed access for foreigners for a while. And obviously now everything is completely closed, and uh, obviously the terrible situation that's happened there recently, we wouldn't want to go back in with the way that the regime is acting at the moment. So we were just fortunate to be able to get in when we could.
Yeah.
And these things, don't take things for granted. I mean, there's opportunities that I've missed out on. I missed out in the early 2000s. I was invited to go to the Sumed mine, and but I missed out on that because I was too busy. I thought, I'll get a chance to go later. Actually, for to go underground at the Sumed mine, I would have been able to have done then, but
I
no.
want to I want to travel and go to all these mines. I just don't know where and how and who to go with, but I think I'm starting to learn who and where and how to
Well,
go.
obviously, right now things are on hold, but
Yeah, they
normally
are.
we one or two trips a year under the Mindat Adventures brand, where we take groups of people. Some of them are quite small, like 8 people or 9 people. Others are, like 100 people, depending on the trip. Um,
That's
Last one we
incredible.
did was to Kola Peninsula in Russia,
Oh,
um,
wow.
which was
Is that near
was
the
that
Kola
20?
Super Deep borehole?
Yeah, it's near there.
Have you
But
seen it?
well, no, we didn't actually go to visit it because I was told it was just like a building, and it wasn't very exciting to go and see. But yeah, it is actually. I also think that it is not, that particular facility is not available to foreigners. There are
Oh,
certain
okay.
areas in Korea because there's a lot of military stuff there as well. So there's quite a lot of areas which are off limits that you aren't allowed to go near. Um, but Fortunately, the places with the rare minerals are fine, and there's a lot of
That's awesome.
opportunities for going. Amazing place, absolutely incredible place. I mean, we landed in Murmansk, which is in the inside the Arctic Circle, and then we drove down to the area where the Kabini Massif
Oh,
and
amazing.
the Vozero Massif, which just outside the Arctic, but still amazing place.
All right. So, Gemdat was founded, of course, after Mindat. And what got you
Mm.
into gems and not just minerals? And do you prefer one over the other?
Okay, so I had a lot of people in the gem world who already use Mindat and still use Mindat.
Yes.
And they were trying to convince me for a very long time to put more gemological information onto Mindat. And when I looked at what the information was and how it should be organized, um, it didn't really make sense to do it that way because there's certainly a lot of overlap between the gem and the mineral world,
Yes,
but there's also a lot of
absolutely.
information. There's a lot of information that's very specific for gem world,
Hmm.
which would be potentially confusing or unnecessary for the mineral pages. Um, and also, that this I thought that it would be a good idea to build something that the gem people could be able to use
Yes.
without being overloaded the other way with all of the mineralogical information. And if we look at, for example, we look at the locality lists. Let's take, for example, the locality list for ruby. Now, what a gemologist calls ruby is different to what a mineral collector calls ruby, because most gemologists wouldn't count a vaguely red corundum as ruby. But if it was, opaque, but mineral collectors will frequently call anything that's corundum and red ruby.
Yeah.
Well, at least mineral dealers would. Um, so, and in terms of the locality list, from a gemology point of view, you're only really interested in deposits where quantity of gem material has been found.
That's fair.
You don't need something where an obscure place where a crystal has been found, or it's a microscopic crystal which is part of a rock assemblage.
Yeah.
Now, that's something that we don't have that, don't need that. So the keeping the locality lists separate was a key thing as well. So yeah, that's basically it. It was to provide gemology with something equivalent to Mindat, but with information that was really more tailored to gemology.
Hmm.
And as for my favorite, yeah, I still prefer the minerals.
Yeah, me too.
I have a lot of friends in the gem world. I have, but I'm not really a gemologist. I've not um, got the passion that much in that direction. Um, Now, my wife has started doing some of the GIA courses. She got a
Oh.
scholarship from GIA to do the entry level GIA courses on gems and diamonds. So she's much more into gemology than I am.
It's definitely a unique branch of science, kind of combined with art. They definitely need to know a lot about the mineralogy to cut and polish a mineral. And that's something I did learn about. I could not, for the life of me, identify anything once it's cut and polished. For the most part, maybe with the exception of cabochon
Mm.
kind of cuts. But I genuinely don't understand why a ruby is different from a sapphire, even if that sapphire or that ruby could be the other color, if that makes sense. So you can have sapphires of a myriad colors. So what determines that it's a sapphire? Because to me, it's all corundum. It's all aluminum
Yeah.
oxide
Well,
with trace elements,
yeah, I
right?
mean the
Chromium versus titanium. And
ruby with gemology, depending on who you talk to, it's all to do with the appearance of the stone, and it doesn't really matter what causes the color. Now,
mm,
there's been arguments about emerald because emerald traditionally was classed as a type of beryl which
hmm
was green due to chromium, and then they discovered these vanadium
hmm
rich emeralds, and so they look like emeralds. The green is exactly the same, but it's got vanadium in it, not chromium.
yep.
And so there was a huge argument about, are these emeralds or are they not emeralds? Um, I don't think that's been entirely resolved to everyone's satisfaction, but my view is emerald is a um, a historic name for a green beryl,
Yeah, that's how
and
I've always viewed it.
the name emerald predates the discovery of both chromium and vanadium.
Yes.
So to me, it makes no sense to tie it to chromium,
No.
and it should be the green beryl, regardless of what the chemical composition is of the chromophores. But
Yes.
that's you'll have people arguing both ways. The
Well,
more gemologists talk, the
because they're
more
trace
and in
elements, they don't get included in the chemical formula as a mineral. It wouldn't.
no, no, and in most cases, the trace elements are in such tiny quantities
Mhm.
that it would be silly to list them. And there's a lot of times that it's not just down to a trace element; it's down to vacancies or radiation
Yes,
damage and also
exactly.
or a combination of factors.
Yes.
So yeah, it's never easy to explain.
No, there's three main ways in which minerals do get color, and you already know that, and you started to go into that. There was something we were watching the other day with somebody making rubies in a microwave and trying to make these various gems synthetically. And I know synthetic gems are created all the time. My with this process that I watched on YouTube, which was just a guy, using what he had, he used about 1% chromium relative to the aluminum oxide, which was more than trace amount. So in that point, wouldn't it be a different
Mm.
mineral? Technically, it wouldn't be a ruby anymore. Didn't he just create something else? That's I wanted to ask somebody who knows a lot about that, and I thought maybe you would be somebody who might know that. And they cool so
Okay.
quickly. Do they even have a crystalline structure?
Well, there's two questions there, and there's two answers to that. Firstly, with minerals, there's something called the 50% rule, which means that the composition of a mineral um, is fixed up to a point where one of the elements within the composition is replaced by more than 50%. So you would need more than 50% chromium versus aluminium. I
Okay.
apologize for the English pronunciation. Um, for it to change from corundum to the chromium oxide, which I think is a scolarite. Is that right? Something like that.
So he would need a lot
Um,
more chromium.
so no, and you would not get a different mineral. You could have a corundum with 49% chromium in it, but it would still, and that's atomic percentages, not weight
Weight percent.
percentages. Um, so yeah, I mean, because obviously chromium is heavier, so the weight percentage could be more because your chromium is heavier, but because the aluminium is more in atomic ratios, it's still a corundum.
Okay, that makes
Now,
sense.
I mean, but that's assuming that there is a complete solid solution between aluminium oxide and chromium oxide. And I don't know, I haven't looked into that to
I
see whether
actually
that
don't know
exists
either.
on. But if it does, then there is a point at which, it's just arbitrarily, well, not arbitrarily, but 50% line. If it's 50% aluminium, it's corundum. If it's 50% plus chromium, then it's a different mineral.
Wonder if there's solid solution explanation. I thought I had a command for that. I'm trying to make more commands for geologic terminologies so that people
Mhm.
understand, but that's something I can describe later. And I think I have a video on what solid solution series means anyhow. That's something that's always interested me in the synthetic gem world, how they go about recreating these. And I didn't realize that uh, he would have needed a lot more chromium to make a completely different mineral. I didn't think it would
Yeah.
take that much. That's really really
I mean, I
fantastic.
think with ruby, the amount of chromium, particularly when you're doing the synthetics, is, I'd say, quite a high
Yeah.
percentage. But frequently, the coloring agents in minerals have tiny, tiny percentages.
Yes, that's why I was
Um,
so.
yeah, I mean, it's per million. Um,
It's a really, really, really interesting topic, I think. I love the chemistry behind mineralogy and minerals in general. It's probably one of my
I've
favorite things about them.
I've got an idea for you for your system. If we do it so that there is a way that you can interrogate the Mindat glossary, maybe there's a way where you could automatically get anything explained through the Mindat glossary come up as you do at the moment with the mineral information.
That would be
So you could do
fantastic.
yeah, we could work together on that later
Yeah, we
and
can do
figure out a
that.
way of
That
doing
would be
that.
fantastic. Um, so besides geologists, we know geologists pretty much know what Mindat is. Who else uses Mindat and GEMDAT? What are the biggest groups of I guess the demographics or however you want to describe it? Who uses the website?
Well, this is the thing. It's used by a lot of people. We have obviously the gemology people and the mineralogy people. Um, the probably the largest group is geology and earth science students who are using it for their work. In fact, we were at the GSA conference in Phoenix a couple of years ago, and Captain Paul was helping us out there doing this. And Captain Paul kept a notebook and a record there of what students were saying to us when they came up or walked past.
Okay.
And I think it was something like 37 times that we heard the line or something very close to, "Hey, that's Mindat. You guys saved my butt in mineralogy class." Um,
Love that.
yeah. So that was that was reassuring to hear. Nice to hear. Um, but other people who use Mindat, we have a lot of people using it because they are into industrial archaeology or mine exploration, or even people who are researching their family history, and they look up information about the mines that their grandparents or great grandparents or great great grandparents used to work at. Um, and there are people who come just because they like the photos. There are
Yes.
people who obviously do lapidary or um, even now on the fossil exploration because we have fossil information. So, excuse me. Yeah, there's a wide group of people who use Mindat, and I like to expand that. I like to encourage um, us to be able to support and embrace everybody's interest in Mindat, not just mineral collectors.
Hmm.
And obviously, it's always been driven by mineral collecting and mineral people who are passionate about minerals. But
Absolutely.
but my
Absolutely.
view is that the more people, the more different people who enjoy using Mindat um, and rely on its existence, the more chance we have of surviving long term.
Oh yes, and I fully believe you will. I
Mm.
really do have a lot of faith in that. I think it's a fantastic resource that I don't foresee going away. What's your
Well, I mean,
favorite? Oh, go ahead.
we've been fortunate that we have so many people supporting us, and as long as they continue to support us, we'll keep going.
Well, I looked at somebody. Somebody else looks like they're going to be supporting them or sponsoring a mineral. Oh yay! Tropical Geek is sponsoring a mineral. Is anybody else sponsoring a mineral? Thank you guys. I really appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
That makes me so happy.
And and what we'll do as well, if
Oh, and Ryan donated
And Ryan
$50.
donated
Thank you.
$50.
thank you all. And what I'll do is that we will soon be in a position, I hope, or at least by early next year, to offer a few people the ability to test the app before it goes public.
Okay,
And I'll talk about it here at some point in the future, and we'll get some people here to help out with the
sure.
testing, so you'll be able to see the sneak preview of the app.
Oh, and I'm sure I've got a myriad people if you need some testers. I could help out with that as well. Oh, we have more people who donated. Sarah, Moose. Oh my gosh, I am so proud of you and so happy. Oh my
Thank you
gosh, that
all.
makes me
Thank you all so
so much. And we can eventually do a what's called a charity. What Twitch calls them charity streams, but they're just fundraising events where you would go through maybe something like Tiltify, such that all the money is that would be donated during a stream would just immediately go to the charity event instead of my PayPal or whatever, for example. So we can do that in the future as well. I'd like to do a dedicated stream to just whatever I make that stream towards you guys. That would be good.
Can I just reply to a comment that Tropical Geek made
Yeah,
in the
absolutely.
chat there, because keeping an eye on that. It would be nice to put my handle and not my real name there. I agree, and this is something that I think we're going to change to allow. I mean, the reason we haven't done it in the past is because, essentially we try to be a scientific database. So when
Mhm.
people are adding information, it's important that we have some way of, associating that with a real person. Because if somebody says this mineral came from this mine, how do we verify that unless we know this is a real person that we can talk to and get information about it? But these rules were set up 20 years ago, and the internet has changed a lot. People have changed a lot since then. So I do agree that actually it's time that we were more flexible on this, because for a myriad of reasons, I think, and just simply people's personal choice. If
Mhm.
people would rather get involved if they were able to use a name that wasn't their real name,
Mhm.
then I think we should encourage that. So yes, this is something we're going to move towards. I have a bit of resistance from the old guard within Mindat, and there are they've obviously got their legitimate
Mhm.
concerns for why they want to keep things the way they are. But I think if we can devise a good system that essentially it would mean that we internally have some way of contacting you and being able to verify that
Mhm.
you are not a bot and that you're a real person and that we can talk to you and you're sensible, um,
Yes.
then we shouldn't be forcing you to give out your real name or any other real identification information. And it should allow that to work. I mean, the other thing in that, of course, is that by having real names, we generally have had a a more polite environment within the chat rooms than
Oh,
in the
yes.
message board.
I bet.
But I think people are generally a little easier to lose their control if they feel that they're anonymous.
Exactly.
However, that's an assumption. I think it may well be that because of the nature of the community that we've got, we wouldn't have a problem if we allow people to use pseudonyms. So
I don't
I'm
think you
I'm
would have
moving
much of
towards that.
one, yeah. I doubt you
Yeah.
would have much of an issue. I think the educational communities in general tend to behave a lot more. I
Mm.
mean, there's always the chance of something happening. So some moderation, of course, is going to be potentially necessary. But generally speaking, yeah, the science communities, educational communities, I do not see the level of what we call trollery or harassment that you would find in other types of social circles, I suppose. So I think that's
So
really good.
we've got a comment. Add a field for username and a preference to toggle between real name and username. Yeah, I think that's the sort of thing that I'm thinking about doing.
Yeah,
Something along those
Mr.
lines. I think
Mr.
that would
Hamill's
work.
really smart about that
Mr. Hamill.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's sort of the idea that we were thinking of. I mean, uh, I can't say it's something that's going to happen immediately, but it is something that
Hmm.
we are looking at. To be honest, we get the more pressure we get from people saying, "Look, it's causing me a problem," or "I'm uncomfortable." Um, I would rather it be done this way. Then the more likely we are to get it prioritized and get it done quicker, because
That's fair. That's fair.
um, that is all. We're always driven by what people need, and there's I get of thousands of people asking me all the time to do things, and it's trying to balance these things and get all the priorities sorted out.
That's fair. Yeah. And
But
Hakari
yeah,
asks, "Are there
it's
plans for
people.
forums, chat rooms
Yeah.
on Mindat?" But there are forums on Mindat. Yeah, you can ask
Well, we've
questions
got
and.
we've got forums on Mindat, which are
Mhm.
very, very effective. They work really well. In terms of chat rooms, we have a Discord group now.
Yes,
So
there is a Discord. Can
please
can I get a link
please
for
join
the
our
Discord?
Discord. There's actually a link. Yeah, it's at the bottom of the Mindat homepage, I think.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
how.
there we go.
Perfect. Thank you, Voicey.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
brilliant. So
In fact, we can make
so the
that a
Mindat
command.
Discord's relatively, I think it's been running a year or so, something like that, a year or so. It's quite new. We did have chat rooms on Mindat for many, many, many years. using IRC technology back in the day, but those we retired for, quite a few years ago. So the Discord is our first attempt to get back into live chat, and it seems to be working okay.
I really like Discord. They actually started putting it on Androids. New Androids that are coming out are getting it automatically installed on their phones. It's a fantastic app. And they do have a channel in there, Discord, where they announce new photos that are posted live. It's really cool. When I posted my very first photo on Mindat, I saw it in that channel. I got so happy. It's like, there's my photo. But there's a lot being posted, so you can learn about what's new on there constantly just by looking in that one Discord channel. It's great. It's fantastic. I do want to know.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I don't spend as much time in the Discord as I should. I used to spend a lot longer, but I'm trying to keep monitoring it at the moment. So if you come into the Discord and shout for me, I'll try and join in and talk about whatever it is.
So I could ask a million questions, and we should probably have you on stream again if you're willing. But I wanted to know, my final question before I open up to Q&A is, what makes a quality mineral specimen quality? And does that answer differ relative to the individual?
Yes, it does. Everybody has their own opinions on what makes a quality mineral. Now, there are some things you can take for granted, like, for example, obviously size of crystal, perfections of crystals. So if you've got something that's damaged, it's going to be a lesser specimen than something that's not damaged. If something has been damaged and repaired, even if that repair is invisible to the naked eye, it's still essentially worth less than something that was intact to begin with. But generally, the thing that makes a mineral a great specimen is different for everyone, and it's it's what do you see in something. It's like if you enjoy looking at art, you can see something in a picture that other people wouldn't have seen, and it's the same with minerals. And there are many specimens which I have in my collection which I'm delighted with, but other people say, what do you collect that for? And vice versa, when I see other people's collections, like all of Tom's stuff. You need for
He hates your collection, Tom.
But no, he's got a fantastic collection. Tom's got a great collection. But this is, I mean, it's something which fascinates me is the different opinions on minerals. And I've spent a lot of time in China, and what they appreciate in mineral or mineral specimens or rocks for collections is a totally different aesthetic to what we do. I look at some of the things that they are proud about and think, well, that just looks like a boulder to me, or a pebble beach, but it's something that talks to them, and that's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing that's less about their view on what is a good specimen to mine. So yes, some of it's cultural, some of it is just down to what you have learned as you progress through the hobby. For me, it's about what I have, what interests me, what excites me. I obviously have a passion for things I've collected myself. I like unusual minerals, or minerals with weird elements, things like that.
Me too.
There are things I don't like, particularly like aquamarine, for example. But
why not aquamarine?
Yeah, I probably won't get into that too much now, but,
okay, fine.
Aquamarine is my least favorite mineral. Yeah, and that's yeah, I think my my name on Reddit is Aquamarine Hater.
Oh no, that's
Oh
funny.
yeah, I don't
Do
do
you,
much on Reddit though.
do you do the? I sometimes follow the subreddits where they ask you to identify rocks and minerals and things, and I'll occasionally throw in my 2 cents, but generally I don't. Usually there's somebody on there that'll identify it, but it's nonetheless kind of fun to peruse
Mm.
through the identifications. Or and then there's the people that take the worst pictures and the low light and they're fuzzy and they're like, "What's my rock?" And I'm like, "You need to take a better picture." I have no idea what that blur is. Maybe it's
Actually,
fuzzy.
no, the worst thing is not the people who say, "What's my rock?" Those are usually fairly polite. It's the people who say, "Hey, I found a
Me-
diamond,"
or a
and
meteorite.
show a blurry picture of a quartz
Oh,
crystal,
God.
or a pebble.
Yeah.
And it's they don't even ask a question. It's not even, "Is this a diamond?" It's, "I found a diamond." And they will never be told that it isn't, however
Oh,
much, but it
no.
scratches. Yeah.
You're like, here's a real
So,
diamond. See how it scratches the quartz? Or the meteorite ones. I had my old advisor in my master's. I love him so much, and he used to get so annoyed because he'd get all these questions. Is this a meteorite? Everybody thinks everything's a meteorite. He's like, I don't want to take those
oh,
phone calls anymore. Don't give them to me. No,
I'll
it's
show.
funny.
I'll have to show you my meteorite flow chart on Mindat. So
There's
let me
oh
find meteorite, my meteorite identification flow chart. I've just digging out the link for it here. I'll paste it in the chat, which of course is going to be delayed a second or two, but let me just double check that's actually the right link. Yes, it is. Here's my flow chart for how have you found a meteorite or not.
let's look it up. All right. Have I found a meteorite? No. That's so good. I often get asked, is this a meteorite? After talking with other experts and looking at the data from amateur meteorite inquiries at our local museum, etc., I put together a flowchart that I think you might find useful in trying to determine whether you have found a meteorite or not. If you follow the flowchart correctly, it will help identify whether you have a meteorite or not with 99.98% accuracy. Oh, this is amazing. I love this so much.
The funny story about this is that I don't know if any of you know the XKCD webcomic.
Yes, I love them.
Yeah, he accidentally stole that and redid it on one of his things, and then I had to apologize to me. We chatted about it. Essentially what happened is I'd sent it to him like 2 years or 3 years before, as part of a conversation about something else,
Uh-huh.
and he'd then obviously forgotten about it. And we then someday came up and thought it was his original idea,
Yeah.
and did
Yeah.
it as a cartoon. So he has his version of that as one of his comics, and in the end he said oops and had to put a link onto my one
X
on there because mine's the original. He gave
me.
me signed he gave me signed copies of his two books as well to apologize.
Oh, what a
But
sweetheart.
he's
I've heard very good things
oh yeah.
about them.
Oh,
Meteorite
Randall. Yeah,
editing.
Randall's.
So
Yeah,
here's the one that this is the one that they had done. How to
that's the
identify it.
one.
Oops.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, if you click it, how to identify a possible meteorite start. No, it's not a meteorite. Department of Earth and Planetary Sciences, please visit Washington University meteorite site. It takes you here. Meteorite, meteor wrong. That's
Oh
interesting.
yeah, this is web rot. This is what, or link rot. This is what happens. Oh no, it's found it now. But I hate it when websites change their links and just have dead pages. That's
Mm-hmm.
why on Mindat, we still keep the links compatible with the year 2000. The links that we originally had, which are different to now, will still work because of redirects. There's no excuse for it changing pages and not having it redirect properly to the
Mm-hmm.
correct page now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we all love XKCD. It's fantastic.
They are funny. They're really, really good.
Mm, yeah.
Do you guys have any questions for the lovely founder of Mindat and Gemdat?
Hmm.
I know I
You
saw
can
one
ask
from
Tom some questions.
Hikari. And Tom as well.
You can ask him anything about Belgium.
Let's see. I know there was. Oh, okay. Hikari said they have a question. Have there been any efforts to standardize the information on MinData? I've noticed that some mineral pages have more information than others. Some pages have information sorted differently than others, and some pages have more details than others. And it makes the availability and readability of the information sometimes somewhat variable.
So yes, the order should be the same because it's all generated from a script. There might be some confusion with the fact that when we don't have information for a certain section, those whole sections are left out. So it can appear that things are in weird orders. But if you actually compare page by page, the order of each thing should be at least in the same order. The basic answer to that is we don't have the information for in many cases for everything. There are some minerals which are so small and so rare that they haven't been tested for certain things. Also, when you are looking at metallic minerals or things with a metallic luster, you have a different set of optical properties to minerals which are transparent or translucent. So it's a completely different set of parameters that we're dealing with. So, and then of course you've got comparing minerals with rocks, which have a totally separate set of data that we're recording for it, and other things as well, which are, we have names for things which are synonyms or historical names or obsolete names or different language names. So in those cases, it's just this is a name for that, or sometimes with a brief explanation. So the answer is, yeah, we try to standardize it. We try to fill in missing information where we have a species where we haven't got enough information added. We try to get that. Now, that's not always easy, and it's not always all being published, but there is still an ongoing process to try and fill in a lot of the gaps. But unfortunately, for many of the rare minerals, some of these gaps are unlikely to be filled in because there just isn't enough of the mineral to be able to research it that well.
That makes sense. I mean, there's a lot that's been identified, and only a good 50 that are the most common. Between there's 5,700 mineral species identified versus the most common minerals. That's probably why one of the reasons I would have to say my least favorite mineral is probably quartz, because anytime anybody asks to I have anything identified, it's almost always quartz.
I like quartz because there's so much variety in it.
There really is. Ferrugenius quartz is pretty neat.
Yeah. So the question about Tom is Tom is one of the other Mindat managers, and he's a good friend of mine. And I've actually just come down to his house here in Somerset for a few days because my wife and son are off with my wife's parents at the moment. So I've kind of left in London on my own, so I was a bit boring. So I came down and did some work here. It also gave us the opportunity to go off and do some field collecting. So, but I'm going back home on Tuesday.
Excited to go home?
No, not really. I've got a cleaning to do, so it's not really exciting. I actually got to stop. I'm stopping off to see my parents first on Monday.
Lovely.
But
lovely.
Yeah, but that's all fine. And the papers that Tom's been working through, this is actually a big project that we have got here. I've brought down to Tom's place, was it 3 or 4 carloads of books at the moment? Anyway, too many books and journals, all mineralogical books. And I have book scanners here, and we're trying to scan in as much as we can of all these books and journals because we need to be able to search this stuff electronically. As I said, we talked about all of these things that we want to work on in pulling information out of journals and books automatically. So yeah, there's a lot of scanning going on and a lot of data entry.
There was mentioned the Mindat Adventures program that runs group field trips. I love getting into the field, but struggle to do this on my own. But I can't find any information about this on the website. How might I get involved with this when it starts back up?
Okay, so Mindat Adventures is obviously on pause at the moment until we're able to all travel properly.
That makes sense.
But we are looking at trips for next year provisionally now. We haven't yet announced anything because we haven't got all of the things organized, but there is a very strong possibility of trip in probably June in Madagascar. There's also a
Oh, I want to go.
possibility in November. There's a possibility in November of a return trip to Morocco, but and there may be other things that we've got planned as well. But both of those are places I've been to before and are fantastic. Um, and
I want to go so
in terms
bad.
of how to in terms of how to find out about this, obviously keep in touch with us. Keep looking at the website. As soon as we have something to announce, we will do so.
Do you
If
guys
I
announce on Twitter
can
when
spell it right,
you have events and whatnot?
that will help. We will do. To be honest, I only really started using Twitter properly within the last year, so we haven't done it since we've been doing events. But yeah, we will do Twitter.
How does Sage or anyone else sign up for mine tours all over the world?
We're trying to do these trips as frequently as we can. I mean, the plan originally was to do 4 trips a year, and that they would be at different levels of difficulty.
Okay.
For example, some of the trips that we do are very easy in that you just basically come on a coach and you drive up to a place, you get out, do some hammering, get back in the coach and go away. There are others like the one in Kola where, we had to do half a day of hiking up hills to get to a place. Now, actually, it wasn't that difficult, but I could imagine certainly for some of our older collectors, that would be a problem. Um, but we are trying to get a variety of things at different places, and obviously different price points as well, because some trips are going to be more expensive than others. What are we haven't run this as a profit center. We're not doing this primarily to make money. We're doing it
Mm-mm.
because it's a great way to promote Mindat, and it's a great way just to enjoy the time doing it. Obviously,
Yes.
we try to make a little bit of it, but we look at some of the prices that other companies are charging for excursion type trips. We go, wow, that's like 3 times what we've been charging.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, and the thing is, we haven't had a conference. We have a proper Mindat conference. The idea was to have it every 2 years, but we haven't had the last one we had was, actually, when was it? 2016. 2016 was the last one. 4 years ago, the last one we had, because we had delays, and then of course COVID. So hopefully 2022 or 2023 we will have our conference, and that's where we have a combination of um, field trips and lectures and events, which is really good. And that's normally like 100+ people. It's great fun, not just for the trips, but also the meeting people.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite things about any of the conferences I've gone to is just meeting other geologists because we work all over the place, so we don't always get
Mm.
to stay in the same place. We often move around a lot and we're constantly traveling. So these conferences are fantastic. And I didn't know that Mindat did. Well, no, I think Captain Paul actually mentioned the Mindat meetups to me at some point. So I'm excited if those
Yeah.
do if that happens next summer or something. I would love to personally join if that's possible. You're willing to go to the ends of the earth for good geology and a nice hammering spot. Yes, Boise. I feel the same. I feel the same way. Perhaps citizen
Yeah.
science platform can help digitize gemology information as well.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the whole plan. Now, with gemology, we are fortunate that the GIA has got a very good, strong library, extraordinarily good library. That's the Gemological Institution of America. They're based in Carlsbad, California. Um, they have a fantastic library, and they also are now digitizing things. So they actually have a collection of the things that they've digitized on archive.org, Let me find the link for it. But it's absolutely fantastic resource for gemology and mineral books as well that they have scanned in from their archives at high quality. And it's well worth looking at. And link for the GIA books from archive.org, which is a fantastic resource.
Oh, thank you. I can put this
Yeah,
into my
but
resources channel too. This is just fantastic. Look at this. So this is gemology. Well, okay. Well, we know your most despised mineral, aquamarine. However, which one is your favorite? Do you have one?
oh, that's a tricky question.
Gosh, isn't it?
Fluoride.
Fluorite for you.
he's-
Green fluorite.
Yeah, he works in a fluorite mine, so kind of.
I want to visit that fluorite mine.
I would have to say, well, it could probably be arranged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be too difficult.
Yeah, I'm trying to get up there. Maybe to get up there. He's trying to avoid going there, but that's a different thing altogether. My favorite mineral is probably diaptase. I have to say.
Yes, that's one of my favorites. I love dioptase.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. It's just unique. I only have
Yeah,
one
I love it.
quarter size sample. You have a myriad samples. In fact, I think we could probably do an entire stream on dioptase together on your visits on that mine you showed
that
me
would be
pictures of. Would you like to come back on my stream to do that? Talk about some of
Absolutely,
your
we'll do a
travels.
dioptase.
That would be
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Everybody knows how much I love that that mineral. Those copper-bearing minerals are just gorgeous colored.
Well, I'm honest, copper minerals of all kinds are my favorites. I mean, leuroconite is an amazing mineral. That's a classic British one. Cuprite, of course. And
I love, yeah.
I have a particular, I also have a particular passion for Russian malachite specimens, things that came out of the Urals hundreds
Does
of
it
years
look
ago.
that much different than other malachite specimens? Or is it just the locale that you
Yeah.
like?
Yeah, I mean, the locale is special. And there is something slightly different about the banding in the Russian ones. There's more, I don't know, contrast, I think, than some of the classic malachite you see from Africa
Congo.
is beautiful, but yeah, but you see these the darker bands in the Russian stuff, I think.
That's interesting. I have a recent piece that I acquired. I have one that's polished from Congo, and then I've got another from Hungary. This one is from Hungary, the one that I shot. Now, this camera I really, really like. This new camera does a lot better with the luster and texture of the minerals than the old one. Of course, the DSLR is going to show things in a lot better detail than this will. This is just the webcam, and it does kind of give this mineral a blue tint. It's not quite that teal. It's more green.
That reminds me of a story about one of my Russian malachites. That actually his company, he works for Crystal Classics, who you may have heard of,
right.
Major mineral dealer. And I came and saw them a couple of years ago, and they had a Russian malachite, and I looked at it and I thought, well, it's quite nice, but it's also too expensive. And also, I don't know, there's just something weird about it. It's a little bit too blue. And then later that year, Tom came and found me when we were both at the Munich show, and he said, that malachite you wanted, it's in the 50% off room. Do you still want it? And I went and had a look at it, and I saw it. I thought, yeah, well, it is quite nice. And now the price is reasonable, ish, but it's still kind of odd because it's a bit blue. And then I realized, it's a bit blue. Anyway, long story short, I bought it, And it turns out it's an absolutely fantastic Russian pseudo-malachite, which is it's a copper phosphate mineral, not the copper carbonate. So it
Really?
looks, yeah, it looks just like malachite, and that's obviously why it's called pseudo-malachite, because it's very deceptive. It looks like malachite,
But
except
it's
it's got no
not.
carbonate in it. No, it's a phosphate, copper phosphate.
So what's the actual mineral
And
name?
the mineral name is pseudo-malachite.
Huh.
Yeah, there we
Copper
are, blue-green.
phosphate. It's a hydrous copper
But
phosphate. Oh no, we both did it.
everyone's done it.
That's
The
all right.
thing with it, it can actually be exactly the same color as malachite. It can be very, very deceptive.
But it can be
Um,
very tealish
mm.
green.
Yeah, but it has it, as you know, with malachite tends to have very little variation in color
Mhm.
other than the bands. But when you look at that color of malachite, two different pieces of malachite from different parts of the world, you've still got that same shade of green. With pseudomalachite, you've got more variety, more variation that you can have. It can be that same shade, but it's usually different.
You know, speaking of green, I know this is something I thought of when we were talking about emeralds, and it popped right back into my head. The chromium versus the vanadium bearing varieties of emerald. One of them fades in the sunlight, isn't it? Isn't it the vanadium bearing variety, or is that hiddenite? Because I know hiddenite also has chromium and or vanadium to color its specimens green, and I know one of those does fade in sunlight as well. I don't know if you
I
happen to
don't
know,
know,
but I was
to be
just
honest.
curious.
Um, I mean, there certainly are gems that fade in
Hmm.
sunlight.
I know kunzite is
And
one. I think amethyst might be another. There's a variety.
yeah, amethyst is interesting because it
Mhm.
is the color in amethyst is caused by iron um, in the unusual 4 plus oxidization state, which is um, shouldn't really be possible, but is in amethyst because of the way that it is within the structure. Um, so yeah, amethyst is um, quite an unusual mineral. Um,
It really is.
but yes, it can fade in sunlight. Many things can fade in sunlight. Um,
Yeah, I don't put
and
any of
part of
mine
the
in.
problem is that it's hard to find out and hard to know for certain whether things will fade in sunlight without actually putting them in sunlight and seeing if they fade.
And try to
So
destroy them.
if you've got something unusual, it can be very hard to try and figure out in some cases whether that color is going to last or not.
Yeah.
Which is why it's often a good idea, if you're not certain, just keep it in the dark just in case.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't have any of my minerals
yeah.
exposed to daylight. Well, I mean, my lamps are lit, but they get turned off a lot. They
Mm.
do get turned off quite a bit.
I mean, the green fluorite from the north of England, um, the will turn purple in sunlight permanently. But you go the mine dumps there, and you look through the mine dumps, and it's other than the brand new stuff that's been from all the dumps, all the old stuff there is purple.
Of
So
course
you'd
it
think
is.
it was all
Yeah.
coming out of the ground purple. It's coming out green. They throw it on the dumps, and then after a year or so, or however long, it turns purple.
Wow, that green is really prized too.
Mm.
So I have some really big old chunks of deep purple fluorite, light purple fluorite. But the greens are the ones that I find most attractive, and they seem to be the most expensive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm,
What's that?
well, I mean, the thing is that the green fluorites that I've had in my cabinet or on my shelf or whatever, they've been fine for years. So it seems to be only direct sunlight
Yes. Yeah.
that changes it. Maybe it's the
Well, that's kind of what I've assumed for a lot of the minerals that fade is the direct sunlight is what's usually what damages it.
Theories have been varying, but it's pretty constant that it's the short wave UV light that does the most and quickest damage to
yeah,
That
the
makes
color.
sense. Long wave isn't nearly as damaging to us
yeah.
either. And I only have
And
long.
if you're
Yeah, I only have long
if
wave.
you're trying to see these things fluoresce with a UV lamp, with these fluorites, it's best under long wave light anyway. So you
Yeah.
get the uh, showing the fluorescence with a long wave UV light shouldn't destroy it if you're doing it irregularly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
no, just here and there shouldn't bother it too much if you're just doing it to demonstrate. And I do need a long wave. My long wave is broken, so I have to purchase a new one. But that is a really fun thing to do is demonstrate the fluorescence. Although if you do guys, if you do get a shorter long wave UV, make sure you do get protective goggles because it is actual UV and it's not like just a cheap black light you're gonna buy from I don't know Spencer's or some Hot Topic like store or something like that. So these are not just toys. Don't shine them on your skin because
Mm,
it's more intense than sunlight in some cases. So you don't want to burn yourself. You can actually get sunburn because it's like that. It's basically radiation. It
mm,
is radiation. So it's focused UV.
mm. Well, I mean, you can even use for fluorites like these fluorites. You could even use the little LED
Mm-hmm.
ultraviolet LEDs. Yeah, I've seen them sale in dollar stores as counterfeit money detectors. Those things they work great for fluorescing fluorites.
That would make sense.
These ones.
Well, fluorides tend
Yeah,
to, I mean, they're
and those
very fluorescent, hence the term.
not all of them.
No, no, not
It's
all of them. One of mine doesn't, in fact.
yeah,
One of my
and
light
it's
purples do
that
not.
it's pretty much characteristic of where they come from. I mean, I think
Mm-hmm.
the Illinois stuff doesn't first, does it?
no.
No, Illinois fluorite doesn't sit just
Yes, there's a pollution of witherite in them.
right. Okay, so if it's got witherite, then it might.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
all willemite
No, I
fluorite
didn't.
phosphorus?
Witherite. The fluorites from Illinois can
Oh.
contain inclusions of witherite, which is a barium carbonate, and that fluoresces quite
Mm.
strongly.
I want the strontium carbonate. I want a barium carbonate. I want a zinc carbonate, which is smithsonite. I need every carbonate. I just need all the minerals. I have to go world traveling to find every mineral that I need. It'll be a lifelong adventure,
Just,
and I will never complete it all.
just be aware that the barium carbonate minerals are more toxic than others, so need to be handled more carefully. I mean, just usual precaution, just washing your hands after handling them. But
Same with
because
my
barium
arsenic.
sulfate, of course, is perfectly inert, perfectly safe, but barium carbonate isn't.
Really? Why is that?
Because it's just down to the mobility of the barium in the
Oh.
body. So if you, I mean, they do barium drinks when you're having X-rays and
Mm-hmm.
things because the barium being a heavy metal goes
Yep.
straight through the system and it's is harmless because the barium sulfate is not going to be broken down in your body to release the barium +2 ions, which are very toxic to life. So that's not going to happen because the barium just goes straight through without being acted on. But barium carbonate will do. That will hit your stomach acid, and then
Yep.
those
Carbonate will
barium
dissolve.
carbonate, barium ions. So yeah, that is toxic. You eat a piece of barium carbonate, you're not going to have a good day.
Same with malachite or azurite.
Similarly, yeah, those two
Yeah.
as well. You don't want to handle too much because the copper can be mobilized,
Yep.
and obviously you could end up with heavy metal poisoning.
Yeah.
Now, I'm it's minor. I wouldn't worry about handling a malachite or azurite specimen particularly, but
No.
what I
Like
would
I
be
just
careful
handled my
about is
malachite, but
think about people who are making malachite slices, and then the
jewelry and
dust coming
things,
off
yeah.
of that. You've got to be very careful about anything about that. You've got to have proper masks because you know that is very dangerous dust.
I know this probably isn't a common thing, but one thing that makes me worry is if you've ever seen those little malachite beads, and if anybody has pets or kids, and a kid were to swallow one of those, you get copper poisoning because your stomach acid is,
Yeah,
well, HCl, and that's going to dissolve that carbonate right away. So I often
yeah,
warn people about some of these things and to look into what they're actually buying when they buy jewelry or beads and things because people just don't think about it. That would be a horrible thing to have to take your
But
kid to a hospital for that, not having any idea what's wrong.
yeah. But people also have a misunderstandings of chemistry,
They do.
and they think that copper is somehow safe, and anything with mercury in is obviously toxic. And you see all these terrible articles on the internet, top 10 most lethal minerals, and number one is cinnabar.
I've seen
And oh yeah, this
calcantite on the
mercury
list.
sulfide is deadly. Cinnabar is safe, safer than malachite or azurite. There is nothing wrong with cinnabar. You could swallow a piece of cinnabar, and like the barite, it will just go straight through your system. That mercury will not come out. The only issue with cinnabar is that in some places, cinnabar is found intermixed with native mercury,
Yes,
which
I
of
have
course
seen
is
that.
deadly.
Yes, I've seen those droplets
Yeah,
actually
but
form on the specimens.
those classic crystals from China of the red cinnabar, um, those generally are just cinnabar on dolomite or calcite, and it's or quartz. There's no mercury there, so they're safe
Well,
to handle.
I knew
Totally.
those ones were safe to handle, and I never knew why. Now I know why. Because there's so many made into carvings, and it wouldn't make any sense that they do that for so long. So I didn't know that.
Well, they still use cinnabar in traditional Chinese medicine, for whatever reason. I have no idea, but there was some concern, obviously, about it, and yeah, they checked it up, and apparently it needs an awful lot of cinnabar to give any toxic effect.
Well, that and
Um,
there's got to be some amount of information on its solubility as well. Is it going to dissolve
yeah.
and release any of those components or not? And that's something I didn't know. I don't know what the reaction with mercury sulfide and HCl is. I don't know. So it's good to know that it
Very,
won't harm you. Well, I mean, of course,
very
if
low.
you were to eat a bucket
Mm.
of it, you probably would get sick because you're eating rocks. But
I would not. I'm not telling you to go out and eat
no,
powdered cinnabar.
please don't.
That's generally advised. But the point is that there's so much misinformation out there about toxicity of minerals.
Yes.
I mean, still, the best advice is just to treat everything carefully.
That's
And
kind of what I
wash your hands.
suggest because I don't even
we've
know
got
all of the toxicities and all of the elements and minerals yet. I still have a lot to learn.
digging these things out yesterday, these pyromorphite crystals, which is obviously a lead phosphate. So, I mean, there's danger of lead toxicity and all that stuff.
And you wear
Did we wash
masks
our hands before we
and no, you didn't wash your hands. If I handle things with lead, I usually remember to wash up after. If I handle anything with arsenic, I always remember to wash up after. Although I don't know about the solubility of my arsenic-bearing minerals, but I do it to be safe.
Yeah.
Anything with asbestos, of course, I wash up.
Yeah.
I did read on a list that calcantite was really dangerous, and I still don't fully understand why.
It's solubility. It's
okay.
water soluble. So it's simply, again, it's a matter of the ease at which that copper 2 plus can be dissolved into your body.
Now,
So
can
even
it just dissolve on your hands?
yeah, I mean, you've got moisture in your hands. I mean, it's not dangerous that I would say you shouldn't hold it, but if you're holding it, just again wash your hands.
I mean, still used in farming quite regularly.
Yeah, and it's used. I mean, it's still used in schools all the time for doing. It's a staple for crystal growing and all of that. So as with everything, if it's handled properly, you've got nothing to worry about. But other than maybe plutonium, you can't handle that properly. But with copper sulfate, it's obviously soluble. There are plenty of other copper minerals again which are quite soluble.
Yes.
Calcantite is one of several, but yeah, I would just usual rules. Wash your hands after you've been holding it. You'll be fine.
And then there's some minerals that'll actually just oxidize by being out.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll slowly disintegrate. I think orpiment is one of them. Isn't orpiment one?
Realgar. Opalmont generally is okay.
Realgar.
Realgar, the red one, will turn into pararealgar, which
That's right.
they used to say into Opalmont, but it doesn't. It turns into pararealgar, which is a powdery yellow thing,
Yep.
which is um, allegedly more toxic, but I haven't seen any real evidence of this about it being toxic. Everybody kind of sees this and thinks it's horribly dangerous, and it might be. I don't know. All I know is that orpiment was, which is the arsenic trisulfate, As2S3, was everybody thinks of it as highly toxic because it's an arsenic mineral. But there was a report on PubMed about someone who tried to commit suicide by eating orpiment. And long story short, they didn't have anything happen to them. It pretty much passed through them without any problem. So there were no ill effects. Now, again, I'm not advising everyone start chomping down on orpiment, but there's some paranoia, and I know I've talked to collectors who say, I'm never going to have one of these in my collection because it's too dangerous. And that's a little bit silly. There are other things that are a lot more dangerous in your life, and in, driving to the mineral show to buy it is going to be more likely to kill you than the mineral itself.
Yeah. I actually I was under the impression that cinnabar was a bit more dangerous to handle. Not all of cinnabar, because I know some of it was used for carving, so I knew that some of it was safe. But I thought that cinnabar was much more dangerous than it was, and I'm really glad that you've taught me otherwise, because I always want to make sure that I have the right information
pretty much
on hand.
Non-toxic, other than its association with metallic mercury.
So I do have a strange question for you. I know this is a little off topic. There's some mineral healing people, out there, and I'm sure you guys all know about this stuff, metaphysical healing stuff with minerals. And there's an individual who was putting colloidal gold and liquid colloidal gold and living silica, so liquid SiO2, into her lattes. And yeah, and I want to know, because there really isn't anything on this, and she's all about the mineral healing and stuff, and she claims that she has a geology background and all this nonsense, and I'm like, okay, but that can't possibly be healthy. Do you know anything about that and what it does to the body? I know you're not a biologist or anything, but I don't even understand where they developed these. Like, they just because they're the similar chemical formula as the mineral that they want? I don't understand. Is there any insight?
Yeah, I've just seen that the mineral, Mr. Hamill's got the mineral glossary working.
Oh, right.
Fantastic.
So Mr. Hamill, you're fantastic.
So the
crystal.
but in terms of the gold, my understanding is that the gold pretty much passes through you without any ill effect. Now, that ill effect is chemical, at least, in terms of the fact that, these flakes of gold are not going to dissolve in the acid in your stomach. Therefore, they'll just pass straight out, and you'll have expensive shits at the end of the day, and that's about it. But the thing is, with biology, which I'm not a biologist by any means,
not either.
It's not necessarily just the chemical composition, it's the structure. It's what do these particles, the shape of these particles, what can they do inside your body when they're there, from a physical point of view of interacting with your body. And I don't know that, so I don't know how safe it is to put gold in, but generally, it's not like it's going to add anything to the taste of your latte, so why do it?
Because it's healing their chakras or some nonsense.
As for liquid silica, that just sounds ridiculous to me. I don't even know what that is.
I don't either. That's why I was so confused.
Yeah.
Like, where did they find this?
Yeah.
But apparently they found it and made this whole... They make a lot of money selling these recipes and healing strategies, and it really frustrates me because I'm scared that they're taking advantage of vulnerable people that really do need help medically. That's my fear with all that.
Well, I
Otherwise,
mean,
I don't care about it.
yeah. You know, when you're at the beach and you're trying to eat a sandwich and you find you've eaten half a load of sand with your sandwich as well, then I think that's probably going to have the same effect. And so if that doesn't cure you, then the liquid silica isn't going to do it either.
Right. Right. I'm so surrounded by minerals. I should have all the luck at this point, right? I should be super healthy. My chakras should be all aligned, all the
Mhm.
things. I have so many minerals. We should have perfect lives at this point, right? Isn't that how that? I
I
have
got a
no
funny
idea.
story
Yes, tell
about
us.
crystal healing. Many years ago, I was helping out my friend, who's actually now Tom's boss, run a mineral show in London. And one of his friends was a crystal healer,
Oh no.
and he would help out there. And he was a lovely guy, really nice guy. So to be fair, I mean, it was, and he was really quite quietly spoken and very friendly and very, he's very happy to talk about the things that he believed in. And so it was really difficult to have any sort of arguments with someone who was, a nice person, which he clearly was. But one of these days, one of the days at the show, I kind of said to him as a joke, I said, "Is there any way with crystal healing that you could actually hurt someone, use it for harm?" And he was looking there smiling at my question. And then he started thinking, and then you just suddenly saw his face drop. And he said, "Yes, I think there is." And he obviously thought about it way too much. And he'd thought up a way that crystal healing could hurt someone. And for him, that was the worst thing ever that he'd
Just like a
discovered.
horror.
And it like ruined his day by making him consider this possibility, which of course
Oh,
he never would. He never would then divulge to anyone exactly what this technique would be, this way of harming people using crystal healing.
he's got this
But yes,
secret evil
apparently,
power.
and sadly, he has now passed. So the secret
Oh.
has gone to his grave as to exactly how you can hurt someone with crystal healing.
We just have to go
But
around asking all the mineral
clearly,
crystal healers how they can hurt people with crystal healing and watch their faces drop.
yeah, and
That horror ensue.
exactly. Yeah.
That is amazing. That story was great.
It was a great day.
Oh,
Great
goodness.
day.
All right. I
Not
think
for him.
I should probably not for him. No. Oh, my goodness. Is it liquid silica just water glass? I
I
don't know.
don't know. Maybe I think it's just silica gel that they put in a drink.
They've got, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
I was said last time. It says do not eat. It doesn't say do not drink.
It says living silica. Is living
Silica.
is what, but they
That's out
call
of-
it. They sometimes call it liquid SiO2, but she sometimes calls it living silica.
That's something straight out of Star Trek, isn't it?
Right?
Yes.
The
Nonsense.
the
made
living
up.
silica.
Mineral-based silicon supplement. What is it for? Why is my question. Just why?
Mm.
I don't get it. Anyway, they put it in their lattes.
How much silica does the body need? I don't know.
I have no idea, but I would assume you would get it in the plants and the food that we eat. That's how we get our nutrients and vitamins, aside from halite.
Hmm.
And even then, that does occur in foods. But halite is.
But if you think how orthosilicic acid. So you see, it's actually silica complexes. It's organosilicate complexes. It's not quartz or silica as we know it.
Oh, it helps with collagen.
It's a collagen booster?
Yeah.
Apparently.
Okay. So it has nothing to do with minerals, but they're just pretending that it does. They're calling it liquid quartz. That's what she's trying to make it out to seem like.
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, they probably make it out of sand, reacting sand with acids.
What is
The
living
material,
in it?
but
I don't understand. What are they like? probiotic. I don't understand.
I think living silica means that they've just misunderstood the word organic with in terms of
Oh,
chemistry. I think
God, that's
organic means it's
funny.
alive. Yeah,
That's funny
yeah.
and sad. It's funny and sad. Oof.
It's like organic food.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's what food isn't organic? Yeah,
Let's
from a chemical
see.
point of view.
Yeah, they're just scammers. They also sell some $2,000 bio mat with crystals infused in it, and it's just silliness, just nonsense.
One of my
Anyway,
favorite things was the selling certified organic rock salt.
oh yeah, I've seen that. It's a
Yeah,
joke.
that's about as inorganic as it will be.
Yes. It's like it's literally inorganic in its definition. All right, guys. Thank you, both of you, Tom, Jolyon, for your time. Thank you for any of the folks from Mindat here in chat. Thank you for any questions that were asked. And I really appreciate your guys' time. We hope to get you back on soon. Really. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell for more content, and leave comments so that I can respond.